the Met Office have just said that the May we just all experienced, and we're all sitting here with our heating on and our jumpers, they've said that the UK had the warmest May since records began.
Yeah, bollocks. Sometimes you know something's bollocks, don't you?
We'll head up this section with Nick says bollocks. I was interested in your reaction. I didn't realise it'd be so.
Yeah. Now what we need to do...
It is absolute bollocks. It's been freezing in May. It's been cold. Central heating's been on. It's been one of the worst Mays I've experienced in my life.
So what we need to do with that statement is we need to look at the information they're basing that on. And we need to look at how that information was collected, how those stats collected, what changes have you done to the metrics of how you collected the temperature throughout May, because they're changing the formulas all the time.
Yeah.
So you're not comparing like for like, you're comparing this year's May based on this formula and these areas, and the thermometers were up a tree or they were next to a road or they were wherever they were placed. It's not the same where they were based a couple of years ago. So you get fluctuations in the temperature by measuring different places at different times of the day. So all this is just pure rubbish.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? There's a guy called Chris Morrison who writes for the Daily Skeptic who talks about this stuff. And there's data called the Hadkrut data, which is held by the Central Meteorological Society or whatever. And apparently they're manipulating this data to change the historical data to make today's data look worse than it is. And there's email exchanges that have been found through Freedom of Information requests where they're actually saying we could do with this historical data looking a bit worse than it is. And they've actually so somebody somewhere is tracking the historical data as it's presented by these meteorological organisations. And they're actually showing that they've changed historical data to make today's data look worse than it is. So, I mean, that is really unbelievable. You talk about following the science. These scientists are not following the science. They're as you say, they're manipulating numbers. But they must take the general public for absolute fools if they think they're going to believe that May has been the warmest on record.
They don't care if we believe it or not. What they care about is them producing these reports leads to more funding for them.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you're giving us the right answers.
Yeah.
We're going to fund more reports off you.
Yeah.
So when scientists became businesses and are selling something to people, that is bound to affect what you produce.
Correct.
And that's what's happened to climate science. Is you get no funding to run anything if you're looking to prove climate change doesn't exist. You won't get funding for that. But you will if you're saying we're looking at how termites in America affects the El Nino effect in Brazil.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll fund that. So it's science. We're always proving science is wrong.
Yeah.
So all the best scientists who exist today, all of them will be proven wrong in the future.
Yeah. So because they use the expression for climate change, settled science.
Yes,
there is no such thing as settled science
exactly.
in any discipline because things are always changing, things are always improving. I think the scary thing about this, Nick, for me is these statements, for whatever reason they're manipulating that data, it leads to real world consequences because the governments, politicians see this, and politicians, as we know, are not the brightest. They see this, they believe it, and then they start to implement things like net zero, no petrol cars in 2035. All these things make real world impacts on us, the general public, and cost us money.
The companies, the multinationals who make money on those stuff are funding the reports.
Yeah.
Of course, I make electric cars. Of course, I believe in net zero. If I can get some of the reports into Parliament about how we're all going to die, well, policies will aim to my business and I'll make more money from electric cars. I used to think the net zero agenda and climate change idiocy was all left-wing silliness. And a couple of years ago, I realised that's part of it. Woke people will believe anything, so save the world. But then there's also the multinationals who are making a fortune on this. They're getting the government grants to build, wind farms and
batteries,
and they don't care if it makes money or not because they're paid up front.
Yeah.
They make their profit in the government grants, and if none of it works, well, we've made our money.
Yeah.
And those multinationals are making a fortune and are funding a lot of the research so they get access to the government grants.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's a big scam.
It is, but I just... I think people are starting to realise, aren't they? We've seen the European elections.
Yeah.
They've moved against the Green Party. They know that's a nonsense as well. But people are getting enough now because it's hitting people in their pockets, isn't it? I think that's the reality of it.
A lot of these ideas were found, made us feel pink and fluffy when there was plenty of money. Not plenty of money anymore now. So now we're looking at, do we want to spend money on pink and fluffy or do we want to spend it on what we need?
Yeah.
And people are beginning to say, spend it on what we need.
Did you like that video? I think you did. Hit the bell, give it a big thumbs up, comment, and don't forget I'm standing for election in Oldham East and Saddleworth. So please share this video, speak to your family and friends if you live in Greater Manchester, and if you live in Oldham East and Saddleworth, make sure you vote for me. Catch you soon.